Hello, everyone. So we'll get started today. So good afternoon, everyone. Today, we will be discussing how the ExpandIT solution works for field workers, specifically how the mobile client works for field workers. So I believe most of you are familiar with ExpandIT, but for those who don't know, ExpandIT is a Microsoft Dynamics independent software vendor, and we specialize in service management. So if I haven't met you before, my name is Julissa Gonzalez, and I'm a consultant and expert in field service software solutions. Today, I've also got Emily Ayala with me, who will be speaking in a few minutes. So there are a couple of housekeeping items. First, the webcast is being recorded and we will distribute it afterwards. Secondly, if you have any questions during the session, you can submit your questions in the chat box and we will answer them afterwards. The agenda is as follows. So we will look at the objectives for the webinar, and then we will discuss the key takeaways. Emily will then get into the demo, and after that, we've allocated some time for Q&A. Lastly, we will finish off with additional resources that you may use. So what is the main objective? The main objective of this webinar is to provide educational training on the mobile client. And during the session, Emily will highlight how to view a schedule and job details, record travel time, work time, and materials consumed, how to capture signatures, images, and documents, and complete reports such as safety reports and checklists, how to create a service order or job while out in the field, and also add a task line to an existing service order or job, and how to view historical information. So now I'll hand it off to Emily and she'll get started with the demo. And so again, this is an in-depth demo on the mobile client where she'll take you on the different sections within the mobile client.
All right, so I'm just going to share my screen here. So today we're going to focus not on the ERP connection or the planning side, but specifically on the mobile client. So that's what you can see here on my screen now. This is the landing page. What we have is a progressive web app, which means it runs online and offline and on any operating system. So a computer, iPad, phone, Android, Apple, it doesn't matter. It will run just the same. We have a responsive design, so it will change the size to fit the device in question, and I will show that a bit later. The offline is very similar to the online. Once it's enabled, the mobile client can fall offline and online, depending on whether or not the user has internet connection. And the system is set up to constantly pull and push data. So that is used in cases where workers may not have internet connection as they're in a rural area. So those technicians will be able to get their data in the morning, go to the rural area, still access everything, do the work, upload things, but all of that information will not get returned to the system until they come back online. So this is the main login page. I'm going to now enter the application. So this is the main landing page. This is what you would see on a computer, as that is what I'm on right now. You can see it's all split into columns, and this is part of the responsive design. So if it were to be shown on an iPad, this is what it would look like. So you can see now you're only seeing one of those columns. This is just the planning tab. And you can scroll through the other tabs using this bottom line here. As with any web application or with any app, you're also able to scroll by swiping. And on an iPad, if you were to turn it to the side, you now get two columns. Very similarly, an iPhone would be quite similar to the upright iPad. So I'm just going to go back to the desktop view, as that allows me to show more. So to start, I'm going to go over this first tab here. This is our planning tab. This allows you to see what jobs are scheduled to this worker. So here you can see that I have a job scheduled for tomorrow and one scheduled for yesterday. I'm currently going to select this one. And once I select that one, you'll see that the job tab over here reflects the information I've selected. So if I'm switch between them, it will then load the other information. This planning tab has multiple views. So currently I'm looking at the month calendar view, but you can also choose to look at it on a week format. And it will load the jobs for the week you got selected. A day format, if you just want to look at what's on each day. List, which gives you the whole list for your week. So you can see this is what I have for this week. Or list day, which is very similar. So I'm going to select this job and we're going to look at it over on the job tab. So here on the job tab, this middle one here, you're able to see all of the information for the work order that you're heading to. So it comes in as appointed, and as the technician, I can then choose to accept it. And it will ask me, do you want to update the work order status to planned? I'm going to select yes. And what that does is back on the planning side, it alerts my planner or dispatcher that I've accepted this job, I will be going to doing it. There is this location, we have the address here, as well as this car icon. If this car icon is selected, it will use the default mapping app that is on your device. So if you're on your phone, it might use Google Maps to show you how to get to that location. We also have the contact information. So that's the email and the phone number of the person you are going to, the technician will be going to meet. And similarly, if you press the phone icon, it will start a call to that person using the default application. Mail icon, it will format an email address to that person. So you can also see that I have this message here from my planner. It says saying, call the contact when you arrive. So these messages can be sent by the planner. That's the one that's been sent for this one. It could be any other information, such as make sure you park in a certain parking lot, or just extra information on the job that was not given in the description. So if I scroll to the other tabs before I've started the job, I can see information. I can see that I have, these are the materials I can choose from, but you cannot actually do anything. So these are all the forms, but if I click on them, I'm not able to do anything. And that's because I haven't started the job yet. You are not allowed to make any modifications to the job until you've started work on it. So there might be some attachments here that were uploaded by the office. If they want to show me a diagram or something regarding to the work that I'll be doing, I'll be able to view those, but I wouldn't be able to upload anything until I've started the job. I'm going to go do that now. I'm going to go start this job. And that's done by clicking start. And it will ask me, do you want to update the task status to in process on this task? So on this work order, I only have one task. If I had multiple tasks, I would get to choose which task I want to currently be working on. But since I only have the one task, this alarm task, I'm going to work on that one. So I'm going to click OK, and it will automatically set it to in process. I also want to update the work order status to started, so I'm going to click OK on that. And again, that one will just allow the planner to see that I've currently started the job. So now that I've started this work order, I'm now allowed to make changes. So not only can I see this message sent, but I'm allowed to respond to it. So that message will go back to my planner and they'll be able to see that. Here we have a message to invoice. This is something that will appear on the invoice. Now, if a technician enters something here, it can still go through a screening process via the approval module. So it doesn't go straight from the technician to the invoice. The planner or the approver is still able to modify that. But I'm allowed to put a message to invoice here if I would like. This is the one task I have to work on if we move over to the task tab. So I'm working on the alarm. And it gives you the service item, item number, serial number, and it gives you the location. I can also add specific messages just specific to this task. And if I arrive there and I find that I need to do something else, I'm allowed to add a task. So I can add a task and select, turns out the light switch is also broken. So I'm gonna work on the light switch. And now I have two tasks. I have the alarm task, which I'm currently working on, and then this light switch task I've created. So now that I've started the job, we can also, if we go look at the time tab, we'll see that a timeline has been created. So I've been working for, this is 15 minutes on this job. Now I did not press start 15 minutes ago. That was maybe a minute or two ago at most. But we have, this is a variable that can be set on the admin side, and we round up to the nearest, in our case, 15 minutes. So if your company wants to track right down to the minute, that can be done. If you want to track every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, that's also done. So this will switch up to 30 minutes when I've passed that threshold. The other thing that can be done is it can record travel time. So before I started work on the job, I had the option to press start travel or start job. I chose to just press start the job, but if I press start travel, it would have created a separate timeline to record how much I traveled. And there are different settings depending on how your company wants to record hours. So if you want kilometers, miles, it'll record it however you want to. So I'm recording time, I've got my task set up. Now I need materials to do this. So on the materials tab here, you can choose how much you want to use. So I'm going to add, I use 2 of these on the alarm, and then you can see that it has been added up here. So this here is the warehouse that it was taken from. So I took these 2 from that warehouse. If I want to switch to this car, I can take one of those from that car. Now we do not check to make sure that that item is actually present in the warehouse, because if there's a mistake in the ERP system that says, no, this isn't there, we do not want to stop the technician from completing their job just because of a mistake in the ERP system. So if the technician says, yes, I took that item from that location, we just say okay, and that will be handled in the ERP system, so as not to slow down the technician in their job. Similarly to changing the material location on the time tab, you can also change who you're putting time against. So by default, the time goes against me. So I'm logged in as Emily Ayala myself, so time will go against me. But if I have a coworker who's joined me on the job, I can also add time for them. So I can say, I'm now set up to say Eric, he worked 1 hour with me, and I'm allowed to add time manually for that reason. So that's the case of if another worker does not have a login, if it's a supervisor who never comes out into the field, but we still want to record the time for the one time he did, that will be done there. So I'm going to switch back to myself now. So those are the time and material tabs. The other thing that we can do on the materials tab is you can add what we call a smart item. And this is used in cases where you need something that is not kept in your warehouse. So if I arrive on a job and I figure out I need duct tape for this for whatever reason, so I go to the hardware store and I buy it. I can enter in that I use duct tape. I can enter in how much it cost me $4.50. I used it on this alarm task, and I can just mention that I bought the duct tape. So this allows us to record the materials that were used, even if they're not from a warehouse or if they're not in the inventory, because you might still want to bill for those materials. So the default is that these will go in under a item number, but we can work with you to, if you want them to go in a different manner, those can go into the ERP system different. But generally these will go in as an item. Now I'm going to show the reports tab. So these are used for if you want to have, sometimes there are safety inspection reports or checklists that need to be filled out on the site. So if I arrive on the site and I need to fill out an inspection form, this is something that is created by the admin by your company, and it can be created however you want. So there is a report builder, and I believe we have videos going in depth in the report builder. This specific report asks a few simple questions and captures a signature. So here I'm able to say, yes, I conducted that inspection. The ground is safe to use. The ground switch is safe to use. Adding comments. If I wanted to, I could add an image. So that might be if it turns out it's not safe and there's a hazard that prevented me from doing my job, I can take a picture of that hazard and attach it. I now need to sign off on this, saying that yes, I did the inspection. So I can sign that and then save that report. So that report will also be available to the planner or dispatcher. They'll be able to see that report that I filled out as well. If I want to share this report, if I want to give a copy to the client I'm meeting at the location, if I want to send one to myself, my own records, I'm able to email that to whoever, and that will be sent out as a PDF. So these reports are all kind of in this format. Blue with the questions, it's all very simple and to the point. These are able to be formatted as a PDF that looks nicer, has your company header, and that is what would be sent out. So the other thing that can be done on reports is you can add time. So it will show that I worked 0.25 hours. Eric, the other person I added time for, worked 1 hour. And it also shows all those materials that I added. So I used 2 of those, 1 of those, and this duct tape that I added. So if I were to save this report now, but still continue working for 2 hours, this time would update to 2 hours at the end. So it takes in the information that is correct rather than what is correct at the time of the report being made. So this allows workers to capture information in the field. Reports can be made to simulate any sort of information that you need captured, if that's government forms or just a simple checklist. That's up to the company to determine how they want those reports to be created. But this is just an easy way to do that without paper. On the attachments tab here, the last one, I'm able to add a file and view files added by the office. So as I mentioned before, if my planner had wanted me to see something, this is where it would appear. I'd be able to download it and view it on my device. If I want to add a file, if I was on a phone or tablet that had a camera and I clicked add file, it would ask me if I wanted to open up the camera. I am on a laptop, so it would just open up my default file explorer to let me choose the file I wanted to attach. So again, this could be if I wanted to take a picture of the scene when I arrived versus when I left, or anything else that was relevant. So I've been working on this job for a while. I've finished a report. I have added some materials. I've added time. I am now going to finish that job that I've started. So I'm going to select finish, and it asks me, do you want to update the task status to finished on these tasks? So I can say that yes, I have finished both the alarm and the light switch tasks, and that means this work order is done. So it asks me if I want to update work order status to awaiting approval. I'm going to select yes. That will again inform my planner that this job is now awaiting approval, so that they can more easily go and approve it. So here, before I finalize, I'm able to see a preview of everything. I'm able to see those 2 tasks that I worked on. I'm able to see the time that was put against this, the materials, as well as the reports. Now there is an option to make reports mandatory. So if there was a report that was mandatory that I had not filled out, I would not be able to finalize this. It would stop me in the screen and tell me, you need to fill out a report. And then I would have to go back and do that before I can finalize it. So that is a way to make sure if you need a signature before the technician leaves the site, you're able to force them to get that signature. There's this other option here that says come back later. And if I select that, it asks me, do you want to update task status to partially served on these tasks, alarm and light switch? And I can select OK. So this is if I arrived and I did not finish that task. So that could be for multiple reasons. That could be I didn't have a part I needed, so I need to order it and then come back next week once it's come in. That could be, turns out I'm not qualified to do that, so I need to get a specialist in to fix this light switch. So I'm able to plan myself to come back and visit tomorrow if I think I'll have the part in by then. If this is way above my head, I can't do it, I can schedule and say, Matt's going to come in and do it tomorrow. I can also just leave this blank, and that means it will go back to the planner, and they will be able to reschedule it out to whoever it's going for. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say I finished it and finalize this report. So once the work order is finalized, as a technician, you cannot make any edits on it. So if it turns out that I forgot to attach an image, if it turns out I worked extra hours that I didn't actually record because I forgot to press start, I cannot do anything about that. At that point, that is something that must be done by the approver or the planner on the admin side, because you can see that I can still see the job, but as soon as I click off onto a different job, that previous job I was working on disappears and then I cannot look at it anymore, let alone make any modifications to it. So I've shown you the general flow of working on a job. I'm now going to go over a few other things. So this is the main screen, but as you can see up here, we have this hamburger menu, which opens up a side menu. So here you are able to clock in if that's something that is required by your company. So you can choose clock in and it'll keep track of the previous clock-ins. And then now that I've clocked in, I'm able to clock out. This main screen I've been showing is overview. So if you ever want to get back to the overview screen, it's just select overview. What I am going to show you now is the week sheet though. So this is how you can keep track of hours worked as a technician. So here you can see that I have 15 hours that I've worked this week, and 11 of those hours are still pending approval. It also shows you that I have 0.5 of those that are travel time versus the 15 hours that I've worked. So it also shows you hours split by job. So these are all of the different work orders that I've worked on, and this is how much time was put against them. If I scroll down, it's split by day. So you can see that this is how much I worked on Monday, this is how much I worked on Tuesday, this is how much I worked on Wednesday, and this is what I've worked on Thursday. So you can see that some of them have a check mark here on approved. So this means that this time here for this work order has already been approved on the approver planner side. The hours I just worked, that 15 minutes that I worked just now, has not yet been approved. We will have another video going over the approval module and everything on the planner side. But this is just the way for the technician to keep track of which time has been approved and which has not. So once everything's been approved, it will show up here for the technician. The other thing is the approver can then change hours. So if it turns out I didn't work 15 minutes, I forgot to clock in. So I tell my approver, I need you to add 2 hours to my time. I forgot to clock in until it was the last 15 minutes. They are able to then add 2 hours and I will see that change reflected here. So as a technician, you're always able to keep track of the hours you've worked by looking at your week sheet. And you can also view previous weeks as well. The other thing is we have this here, which is used for internal time generally. So if it's something that is not a work order, it's not something I'm going to bill to the customer, it's just, this is something I need to do when I get into work, I'm allowed to do that. So I'm able to see the task and I can do the salt dispensing, I can put hours against it, I'm doing 1 hour of salt dispensing. And if I want to, I can add materials. So I used 2 of these to do the salt dispensing. So these are jobs that they will not disappear once you finalize them. So I can go and finalize this. And again, you can see your materials and your time. And then I can do that same thing again the next day. So it's not the same as the work orders, which once you finalize them, you aren't able to see them. I can do this as many times as needed for my job. So there are multiple jobs here, which you can set up if those are things that you want to track time for, but that aren't necessarily going to be service orders that go to customers. The other thing is messages. So I do not currently have any messages, but these are things that are sent from the planner to the technician. So this could be a notice that is not service order related. So you saw those other messages that were sent specifically on a service order. This could be something like if there's a new company policy that I need to get a signature at every site I go to, they can let me know through these messages without attaching it to a specific work order, service order. The other thing I want to show you is history. There's a few different ways to view history. The first is by going to the hamburger menu and selecting history. So here you are able to filter however you would like to see what you'd like to see. So I'm able to say I want to look at this customer and I want to look at specifically this service item for this customer. And then I'm able to see if there are any orders. In this case, there was this one task. You can see any comments, any reports, and any materials that were shown for this. So this allows you to filter however you'd like. So this is if you're going out to a job and you want to see what was done previously, you can do that by using the history. An easier way to use history is if I select a job. So I'm going to select this one here. You'll see there's a history button here and a history button here. So this history button here pulls up the same information, but it will automatically filter to this location and this customer. So the filters are automatically set to look for history on this location and this customer. So I can see the previous orders that were done here. If my colleagues had left any comments, so they might be able to say, this needs replacing within the next 2 months. That way I already know that that's happened. And it allows you to see previous reports and materials used. So it can help you better prepare for going out and doing your work if you know the work that was previously done. This one is very similar. It will just also, in addition to filtering for the customer and the location, it will also filter to this specific item number. So in the case where there is only one task, as there is here, these buttons will be identical. In the case, if I were to have multiple tasks, the history button on the specific task would be different, as it would filter to the specific item number. But I didn't add another task. The last thing I want to show you is how to create a new job from the mobile client. So these jobs I've been showing have been jobs that have been created on the planner side. These were sent to the technicians, and the technicians can then accept them, work on them, etc. But if the technician is creating their own job, they arrive at site, turns out they need to do something, you can either press this plus button here, and that allows you to create a new job. So you're able to say, I want to create a job for this customer at this address. I'm going to be servicing the main entrance camera. So you are able to create that job yourself. I'm going to create a work description. And I can even schedule myself to go do it. So I'm going to do this right now. It's going to take me 2 hours. I'm going to assign it to myself. And once you select done, that job is created and it will appear on your schedule. So here it is. The new job I've created, service the camera, it's been assigned here. The other way that you can create a job or work order is by going here and saying create new job. So that brings you to pretty much the exact same screen. You just choose the customer or the service item and you create a job that way. And this is something that, again, the planners will be able to see. So if you create a new job, they will be able to see that you are working on that from this time to this time. And it will appear on your schedule for them as well. I believe that is everything I have to show you on the mobile client. I'm going to pass it back to Julissa to see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Emily. So we do have a few questions here. I'll start with Eric Higgins. So he asked, is there an approval process if the tech adds a task?
So anything that is added here, the approvers are able to see. They're able to modify it however they'd like. So it's not just like the task is created and then it goes immediately back into the ERP system. Approvers always get to check, but to my knowledge, we don't actually check to see if there's no way for the approvers to automatically get notifications that this person has created a task. I believe there is a setting that makes it so that if you do not want your users to be able to create tasks or jobs, you can just turn that off.
Okay, great. So the next question is, so will that counter that you showed for the where you see your shifts, so that counter, will it show you the whole shift of the jobs for the shift total?
Which counter?
So where you're able to see the shift of your jobs, so the calendar, I believe.
Here?
Yeah.
So this will show how whichever jobs are assigned to you. So currently I only have these 3 assigned to me, but if you were to have more, those would appear. And same thing, I only have 1 on each day, but if I were to have 5 today, those would all appear and they would show me which time they were supposed to be and how long it was predicted. So this duration could change. If I think it's only going to take me an hour, the planner could also assign it for only an hour, and that would be reflected here. So you can see it says it's from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. now, whereas previously it was 2 p.m.
Okay. And so another question is there a way for technicians to see attachments from old orders in the history?
So currently we do not have a way to see previous attachments. There's just the reports and the materials that are shown.
Okay. And so again, so back to the scheduling of the shifts of the jobs. So is there a counter that shows the whole shift while in the shift?
Not to my knowledge, no. But I can get back to you on that.
Okay. And so I think, yeah, so there's some other questions in the chat box here. So the duration that you set for a job, so for example, the 2 hours, if there are any warnings for the tech if they are clocked in for over that amount of time. So is there any warning?
Again, I do not believe there is, but I can check on that one as well.
Okay. And another one is if the job is budgeted for a limited time frame, so say 2 hours, is there a way to alert the tech when the time is about to be up? So similar to the last one.
Again, I don't know off the top of my head. We do have a lot of settings that allow you to customize it, but I'm not sure if that's one of them.
Okay. So another question we have in here is an employee's payable time based on the clock-in time or the job time that they have been
Generally,
assigned?
it is the job time, but it depends on how your company wants to work. We don't really handle any of the billing processes with ExpandIT. We just keep track of the time as well as the clock in and clock out. So all of that is generally dealt with outside of ExpandIT.
Okay. And so how does an employee clock out for lunch and then back in?
So that's not something we have set up in our standard product. Here you can just choose to clock out and then clock back in. We do not have a lunch break functionality on the standard product that I've been showing here.
Okay. And so I have a comment here from Timothy Poland. So for all the AAA employees on the call, so the last two answers, for the last two questions, the answer is yes. So there was a specialized customization completed. So that was about the questions of, you know, if it alerts you if your time is almost up on the job. So that's the answer for that. I don't believe I see any other questions right now. But again, if you do have any other questions, I'll shortly display our contact information and you're more than welcome to contact us there. So now I'll just share my screen. And we will get back to you. So for the questions that we weren't able to answer now, we will get back to you with an email after this presentation. So now a recap of the objectives. So we saw Emily was able to show us how to view a schedule and job details and how to capture signatures while out in the field and complete reports such as safety reports and checklists. And we also saw how you're able to add a task line to an existing service order or job. And so additional resources for you. So as mentioned before, the recording will be available. So again, we'll give that to you with a follow-up email with the answers to some of the questions. Additionally, we do have other educational videos on our official YouTube page. So you can always check those out. We will also be having a next webinar. So the next webinar focuses on the planning board and how planners or dispatchers can use the planning board. And lastly, if you do have any support questions, feel free again to use our support inbox, so support@expandit.com. And if you do have, again, any other questions, our contact information is being displayed right now, so you may reach us by telephone or email. And that concludes everything. So I hope this webinar was educational, and have a great day, everyone.